Welcome to Footy Centre podcast series. Welcome to Footy Centre podcast series.
Hello and welcome to FC Pitchside podcast with me, Thierry. Thank you very much for joining us. If you're watching this on YouTube, a bit welcome, of course, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. We welcome you. Now, in today's episode, Portugal settles score with Spain in the UEFA Nations League. Has the talk of who wins the Ballon d'Or being settled, and also there's transfer in focus as teams settle on their top targets this summer. Then we also settle on who is king of our game segment here on the FC Pitchside podcast. My name is Thierry, and thank you very much for joining me. And of course, I'll be doing this with Jonathan Mensah. Philip Sichuatrim will join us a bit later. But Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you so much, and excited to talk football.
Of course, we'll be talking about all the major things I have mentioned and a few others right here in today's episode. So just buckle your seats as we get into it. Now, let's start, and we'll be going straight into, what the major discussion for us, that is the FC Pitchside hot topic, and that would be the Ballon d'Or conversation. And of course, there's been a lot going around about whether it should be Ousmane Dembele or Lamine Yamal. But as we know it is never easy for anyone when it comes to deciding on who the best player is for any calendar year in football. It's always moved on, it's always been an argument between Ronaldo and Messi. It's moved on from there. Lewandowski was in the picture. And of course, there's several other guys in the conversation. But there are new kids on the block. Ousmane Dembele isn't a kid. I mean, he's not in his Dortmund days, is he? But he's moved on from there. He's become a mainstay and, of course, a key player for Paris Saint-Germain, especially after that December issue. Was it November around or December when Luis Enrique decided to sit him out of a Champions League game against Arsenal because of indiscipline? He comes back into the team. He is no longer played in right wing. He's played as a centre forward with, of course, different, demands than what a classic number 9 is supposed to do. But he basically just changed the entire PSG front forward and the look of it, the quality that they've given us. And we've also seen what Lamine Yamal has done for Barcelona. Of course, he's considered the next generational talent after Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. People say this is a guy that everybody's supposed to be looking at for the next 10 years. As to whether he's going to be able to sustain that longevity, we don't know. But what we know, though, is currently he's playing with so much confidence. And let me just pick the thoughts of Jonathan on this one. Lamine Yamal and Ousmane Dembele. Jonah.
This is a big one. And obviously, when you talk of the best player in the world right now, then obviously it would come with you scoring goals, you assisting. Right. Of course, I'm a centre back, so I'll look at it from that perspective. If you scoring goals, you assisting goals, and you stopping goals. Right. In this case, these are forward players, and they've done incredibly well with their teams. But looking at a player like Ousmane Dembele, what he's done with his team, winning the treble, and when you conquer Europe, you have a little advantage over whoever you're competing against. Obviously, Yamal also won, the Copa del Rey and then won the La Liga. But when you conquer Europe, you have a little edge over your opponent. So, looking at the hot topic for this episode, I'll go for Ousmane Dembele.
So to you, Ousmane Dembele should be Ballon d'Or. I mean, if you if you were a coach right now, if you were a coach and you had one attacking slot right now, it's going to be Dembele over Lamine Yamal. Is that what you're saying?
No, we're not talking about that. If I'm a coach I'm voting for the best player right now, I'm going for Ousmane Dembele. Obviously,
in the world, right? In the world.
Right now, yes.
Yeah. And I'm asking.
No. We're talking about what you've done throughout the season.
Yes. I understand that. And I'm saying that. So based on your argument of what Dembele has done in the
Right.
season.
This
You
season,
think
yeah.
you think he deserves to be the
Oh
Ballon d'Or winner?
yeah,
So
yeah,
so so
yeah.
so that's where my question is coming from. So meaning that if he
Uh-huh.
can actually be the best player in the whole world, he should
Right.
be a best player in your team if you have one spot remaining between him and Yamal. If you're going to
Oh
choose
yeah.
Yamal over him, then it
Form
means
right
you're not,
now.
yeah, form right now.
Yeah, I'm picking Ousmane Dembele
Okay, I like that. But
for
you also
sure.
saw the
Yeah,
game between France and Spain and
I
how
did.
Lamine
Like I said,
Yamal and his team
but
won that game. I mean, it would have been
uh,
a disastrous scoreline if France hadn't come back, but
when
they did. It
you
made it a
when
little
you
more easier.
talk of when you talk of these two players, oof, Yama is still very young, what, 17, 18, and
Right.
Usman has gone through so many things, with whether it's form, up and down, injuries here and there,
Hmm.
changing
Hmm.
clubs here and there. And, this is the first time Yama is playing, with Barcelona on a consistent level. Even at his age, he's doing incredibly well. But for now, I'm going with Usman Dembele for sure.
I see. I like that. At
Yeah.
least it makes me know, where your thoughts are when it comes
Y-
to who the best player in the world is. But I mean, I look at the two of them though, and I genuinely feel that Dembele, even though has achieved more because he won the Champions League, which is the holy grail.
Mhm.
Almost every player or the best player in the world of any season is judged by the trophies they've won, no matter how good you are in
Mhm.
your team. I mean, Cole Palmer can say all the things he can say about being the best player at Chelsea, but he can never stake a claim to being one of the best players in the Premier League if he is not winning trophies. So laurels definitely play a big part in who you become. But I also think that when you look at the pure football, like what the things that Yamal does, though, I mean, that in pure technical play, Dembele has tried to get to those levels when he was young. He never got to those levels. And at 17
Mhm.
years, Yamal is a leader at Barcelona. He's one of the best players in the world. He's definitely currently the best player in Spain, um, and arguably the best player in the world in terms of what he can do with the ball.
Mm.
But I mean, I understand where you're coming from. When you're looking at how Dembele has also changed PSG, made them
Mhm.
not just a title winning team because they've been winning the league for so long, but it's also
Yeah.
just also taking them beyond the line and
Yeah. So
winning the
to
Champions League.
to oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
No, 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 I was actually done. I mean, to say that he was
Yeah.
actually, or he has now become the player that
Mhm.
everybody is going to be looking up to or looking back at when they want to talk about how PSG won the Champions League
Mhm.
eventually. Because remember, they tried with Lionel Messi, they tried with
Yeah.
Neymar, Mbappe, it
Mbappe.
didn't
Yeah.
work. Before then, they had tried with Ronaldinho. A lot of players had come into the team and it
Yeah.
still didn't work. And Dembele comes in, and it's not just down to him because Enrique has done fabulous work over
Yeah.
there to get them playing the kind of football they're playing. But Dembele has definitely contributed his bit.
Yeah, I was actually going to talk about the managerial side of the club.
Right.
He's done incredibly well with the squad he has,
Mm.
because he wasn't obviously someone like Lionel Messi. Where you gonna coach?
Mm-hmm.
You're just gonna
Mm.
let him go out there do his thing. But he did everything around the team. He
Right.
said, okay. We don't have superstars here. We do have a great team, which it was beautiful to see because the way he changed, a little bit of the mentality of some of the young guys. You're young, you haven't done anything yet, but now
Yeah.
you have the chance to win something, not just for now, but
Exactly.
for years to
Yeah.
come. So the way he got the boys playing, you knew they were going to win it, but I didn't know it was going to be this, big score line.
Exactly. Exactly. But in the end, we'll be talking about the UEFA Nations League a bit shortly. But just to let you know a few pointers here, Yamal has taken more shots overall over the season, but fewer per minutes, while Dembele's conversion
Mm.
rate is much higher. So that goes in favor of Dembele. We are looking at some
Mhm.
statistics here, but
Numbers.
across all competitions, Yamal has played significantly more than Dembele this season,
Hmm.
4,548 minutes compared to 3,286 minutes. So it clearly
Okay.
shows you that Dembele has played less, but has a
Mm-hmm.
better conversion rate when given the chance to, to shoot, to attack, and to help his team. Also, Yamal has already won the UEFA, the European Championship with Spain, won the La Liga, won the
You
Copa del
did.
Rey, also won the Super Cup against Real Madrid, remember. Dembele also finished the 2024-2025 season with 33 goals, 13 assists, including 2 assists in PSG's Champions League final.
Lots of goals.
Final victory over Inter Milan. He was named the Champions League Player of the Season and also won the league Golden Boot. So he's not just there because he
Wow.
was part of a winning team. He was an integral member
Yeah.
of that
Of
team.
the
Compare
team.
that to Yamal. Yamal actually recorded 18 goals with
Okay.
25 assists. I mean, he's more of a playmaker than Dembele
That's
is.
his guy.
And
Yeah.
and I also don't, even though I had to ask you the question, I don't really believe in that question when it comes to who are you going to put in your team if
As
you
an
have one slot.
attacker.
Yeah, because they are
Yeah.
different players. I think they can play together. Dembele has proven he can play in centre forward positions. Yamal
Mm-hmm.
always plays on the right. Yamal can
On
be
the
feeding
wing
Dembele. I think they
cutting.
can definitely work
Yeah.
together.
That's
But
why
currently,
that's why I
Mhm,
sort of like diverted your question a little bit into answering it. Okay, I'm choosing him as the Ballon d'Or winner because if I have one slot, oof, I would and I'm building a team. I would definitely go
mhm,
for the 17-year-old, because he got
mm,
so many
right,
years ahead of him. But
right,
when you
right,
talk
right,
of
right,
obviously, you know, them two competing for the Ballon d'Or, I would definitely go for Ousmane Dembele.
right. Okay, so I mean, I think technically Yamal is the best player in the world, but more efficiently,
Okay.
and I say efficiently, Dembele is the current best player in the world. If you
Mm.
put a gun to my head, I'm going to give it to Dembele. I don't think that. I think that for Yamal, everything that he's done deserves all the accolades he's getting from every pundit all over
Mm.
the world. But let's not forget, someone has worked his socks off to get to a
Hmm.
Champions League final and win.
Yeah.
You do not discount the efforts of that player because someone is doing so well somewhere else. They were all in the same competition. One won it, one didn't win it. They all won their respective leagues. They are all influential in their teams. You cannot tell me, and especially as Yamal didn't win the Nations League, um, I think then it means that he doesn't have one trophy over Dembele. It could have been, oh, I won the Nations League and you also won the Champions League. But let's be honest with ourselves. Dembele has been heads and shoulders above a lot of players, if not all, this particular season. Anyway, let's move on from there. Let's go straight to
Mhm.
the other conversation for the day, and that will be the UEFA Nations League. Jonah, this was really, really interesting because right from the semi-finals, there's been a lot of interesting results, interesting games. I mean, 4 games have been played in the last 4 days or so. Spain beating France by 5 goals to 4. What a game that was! And I mean, this is not to exaggerate. Anyone that saw that game, it's not just about a poor game that had goals in it. This was a rich game with so much quality and two teams going at each other, especially with Spain. Everybody thought they had won. They had a big margin in the second half. Everybody thought this is it. And then for some reason, the last 20 minutes or so, France made changes, including Cherky coming on. Of course, a guy we'll be talking about maybe in the transfers because he could be heading to England. But this guy also comes in, two-footed guy, scores a goal. Mbappe also grabs another one. And it's suddenly like France can come back, force an extra time or something. Let's talk about that game before we look at the other semi-final between Germany and Portugal.
I believe when you have two great teams competing against each other, you're always going
Right.
to have a show, and
Mm,
that's what they gave the fans. And they had, like I said, they had special players on both sides, but then it always comes down to who's willing to step up to make the difference. And the Spaniards stepped up, and
hmm
having the likes of Yama, Pedri. These young guys are going to be around for the longest time. So competing against a team like France, and you top them. What else can we say? And obviously we saw in the finals as well. Great game.
Absolutely great game. And one of the things that stood out for me was just how tall Yamal can stand in big games. He's
Mm.
proven it in several big games this season, the Champions League run up to the semi-final, and also even in Spain, the number of matchups they had against Real Madrid. Of course, we all know that's the biggest game in football, and just how he seems unfazed every time he comes up in big games. It's like to him, this is my time. The world is about to watch me. This is when I'm supposed to do my thing. I mean, as a footballer, if you're coming up against a young player like that, what are some of the things that go through your mind? What are you looking at? What are you thinking about? How are you planning to stop him? Because we've seen several times how players are holding him, like
Mm,
literally holding him. And today, Pedro Neto did the same thing in the final. We'll talk about the final, but
mhm.
about Yamal and how he's able to like go past his men. He doesn't care how old you are, how experienced you are, how good you are, how much on form you are. If you're a defender coming up against a player like that, how do you deal with it? How do you prepare for him?
I think you prepare as best as you can, but then when
That's very blunt.
when
That's very
yeah,
vague, Jonah.
no, you can, but then when you get out there against a player like that, he's a generational talent, and we've
Yeah,
seen what
yeah.
he's done at his early age, at 17 years old. I don't know what I was doing when I was 17, but this kid is incredible. So going up against a player like that, you just pray that he doesn't embarrass you, he doesn't nutmeg you, because that is the highlight people are looking at right now. And of course, you defend a player like that collectively. You cannot just go 1v1 against him all the time, because whenever he gets the ball, he's coming at you, especially when he sees you by yourself. So you have to group defend him, swamp him, 2 3 guys, send 2 3 guys at him, because if not, he's just gonna find his way out of the 1v1s.
Right. So let's look at that. But also, let's move on from that one and look at the Germany versus Portugal semi-final. Because as we know, Germany didn't progress, and then what we saw was, Portugal getting on to the final. We'll be talking about the final in just a bit. But your word on Germany, because they lost that semi-final. They lost the third place playoff against France as well by 2 goals to 0. And without necessarily talking about that semi-final, let's look at how Germany or German football is sinking, because Julian Nagelsmann was supposed to be the messiah for this team. It was said that Hansi Flick couldn't do the job. The World Cup was abysmal. The Euros were abysmal. They needed someone else to come in and do the job. Nagelsmann is still not being able to steady the ship. They still have some very good players coming through, some good
Hmm.
young players like Florian Wirtz, like Musiala. Is it that German football do not have the quality they used to have in those days, or it is a coaching problem, or is it just other teams like just gazumping them lately? Because German football is, especially the national team, is no longer
Yeah.
what it used to be.
I would say the quality is still there. The coach obviously is a quality coach, but to be able to blend the two together, and obviously from the previous achievements, winning the World Cup, doing so well in Euros and all that, and then in other tournaments they don't do too good. They
Yeah,
sometimes get out of the knockout stages and all that. It puts a lot of pressure on whoever is coming to take charge, and the new players as well. If this is your first call up, you have to go out there and perform for the nation, especially when they're not doing well. So Hansi Flick leaving, and the new manager taking over, that we knew that was going to be a lot of work for them. And that is a reflection of the recent results, and France even beating them in the third and fourth place. So they have to go back to the drawing board, and obviously steady film where they did some things wrong, and regroup, because they still got a couple of young players that they can still build around. So
yeah, yeah.
hopefully they can bounce back, because a team like Germany, when you finish fourth in the Nations League, that's a failure to them. And yeah, hopefully they can regroup, and give us the beautiful football they've been playing in recent years.
Yeah. And now we can move on to the cracker itself, the final itself, and of Spain beating Portugal. Sorry, Portugal beating Spain in that final, and
Be
it's
careful
Portugal
now.
winning. Or Portugal outlasting Spain
Yeah,
in that final because Spain went ahead twice in that game. Portugal coming
yeah,
back twice in that game, and it just goes to show you just the level of quality that these two teams have, the hunger
teams.
they have, to get to this particular level. Getting into extra time, it was still deadlocked until penalty shootout, and it was Alvaro
Hmm.
Morata who missed his penalty. I saw that kick, and his walk up to it was not confident. And before
Yeah,
he took that penalty, the commentator said Morata has in recent years been talking about his mental
mental
health
health. Yeah.
and just how not strong he is mentally. I mean, we all know at the very highest level in football, a lot of things go into there are lots of details that go into the game.
Hmm.
The technical team, the coaching team must have known that this guy is not mentally ready, not to play the game. But penalty shootout, as we know, takes a different kind of mental strength, to execute properly. Do you think that this is something that should have come up, something that should have been discussed? This guy, I mean, let's have a word with Morata. He needs to understand that he is not in the best shape. Let's
Mm.
find a way to do this without him because Spain have so many technical players. Why must it be Morata? But of course, that's hindsight conversation. The whole
Hmm.
game in itself we'll be talking about. But let's first of all talk about Morata.
I believe individually he
Mhm.
probably thought he was ready. That's why he was in camp. He
Right.
was actually the captain of the team, and I believe he's one of the penalty takers. So
Yeah, he is.
it's time for penalty shootouts, and you're the captain of the team. You would love to step up, and I believe that's what he did. If he had gotten to a point where his mental state wasn't right, then I believe he wasn't gonna even be in camp. But he felt he was ready. But he has obviously discussed in the past that he was struggling mentally a little bit. So that was the comments the commentator made. But to me, I saw he wasn't confident enough as he was walking towards the spot, and
Yeah.
we saw what happened. So now that the season is over, he's probably going to get some help, and yeah, we wish him all the best.
Yeah. Now let's look at Mendes. I would maybe I'll go on a solo rant about
Hmm.
Mendes, the left back for Portugal. To me, he's
Yeah.
currently the best left back in the world. I mean, a lot of people or some people have different suggestions, but he's won the Champions League and he was absolutely
Who would you put ahead of him now?
right now. I don't think anybody comes close. I don't think
No,
anybody
you
comes
said a
close.
lot of
But
people would have,
oh yeah, I mean, people.
their
I've seen people make arguments for Man City's left back. What's the guy's
Guardiol.
name? Yeah,
Guardiol.
yeah, Vadiol. Um, some delusional Chelsea fans say Cucurella is better than him. I don't believe it. I think Cucurella has done well for Spain in a Spain team that has been dominant, and for Chelsea, he's been
Yeah.
one of the best players there. But then again, if you cannot compete in the top competitions and win
Hmm.
things there, don't expect to be
Yeah.
part of these kind of conversations. And for
Right.
Mendes,
Right.
even for the goal he created, oh my god,
Yeah.
for Cristiano Ronaldo, that was absolute quality. The way he
Yeah.
stretched the defense, the way he found Ronaldo in a way that there were about four defenders right in front of Ronaldo. Ronaldo did well to
Hmm.
sort of like slide behind Cucurella and get
Cucurella.
a touch
Yeah.
and get a good touch because it was supposed to be one touch and only one touch you could have
Yep.
before the goalkeeper reacted or even Cucurella
Yeah.
himself turned to react. But he was able to, direct the ball past the goalkeeper with just one touch, and it shows that the experience and the quality that Ronaldo also brings, even at 40 years. But let's talk about
Yep.
Mendes. I mean, what a player!
What a player. I totally agree to your comment you made earlier that he's currently the best left back in the world, and his technical abilities, and you know these are the type of players that wingers always worry about. Oh my God, not this guy again, because he is. the fullback. Usually, wingers go at fullbacks and all that, but he is the
Yeah,
one that is going to
yeah.
be dribbling past the
Exactly, exactly. Like
wingers,
he
and
he
he's
he
going to.
plays like he doesn't need a winger supporting him. Usually a fullback would need a supporting cast
Yep,
from the winger.
yep,
The winger,
yep,
helps to create some mess in the wing, and then the
yeah,
fullback sometimes overlaps. He plays
right,
like he doesn't need a winger.
yep. The way, from the way he plays as a winger, you would always benefit from the way he plays because you can tuck in, and now you are obviously giving the opposing fullback problems, whether he's going to follow you or stay there. And now you give all the space to Mendes to run into, whether it's with the ball or running into space. So his game is beautiful to watch. Obviously, having a coach like Luis Enrique will definitely enhance your game, and it's showing the reason why he's one of the best in the world right now.
There's always been talk about how the Nations League is not supposed to be this top competition because there's a Euros, there are World Cups to win. It's just like the Conference League and the Europa League in club competitions. People don't respect it, but you could see what it means to to Ronaldo after that particular victory. He was crying. He just went straight to the turf, and then he started crying, and his eyes were swollen because of the tears, and
Yeah.
it was just a show of importance of this trophy. I mean, some can
Hmm.
say he's greedy. He wants to win everything, but that's the hallmark of a great player. You must want to win everything.
Yeah.
I mean, even in recent times, USA in the last few days, Pochettino has been criticizing his players that some of them are already at the beach because they don't care about the Gold Cup and all that because they are losing consecutively. Um, Maybe a lot of upcoming players should be learning a lot from Ronaldo. I mean, even if you are playing, once you wear that shirt, you must take it
Hmm.
seriously.
I believe, let's say, for example, someone like Jonathan Mensah, I'll use myself as
Right.
an example. When
Okay.
everyone says Jonathan Mensah, they're going to say, okay, he's from Ghana before
Hmm.
any team you play for.
True.
So that like when you put on the shirt of
Yeah.
your national team, the pride that you play with, the passion and the enthusiasm you have to always represent for your country should be the best in the world, I would say. And Cristiano have shown that throughout his international career, like more than 100 goals for his national team. That
That's
should tell
crazy, isn't
you.
it?
Yeah, because for me to even score a goal, bro, that would take me years. But this
No,
guy
but
has
that's because
scored
you're
over
center back.
100
That's because you're
goals.
center back. Ronaldo
No,
spent
but
too
at
much
least
time in front of goal.
in front of goal. I understand that, but then you can see the passion he plays with when he misses a
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah.
I think he has shown more emotions with the national team more than even his club side, because
But of course, I mean,
like
he's always every time when it comes to the national team, you see him sometimes even on the bench coaching, being an
he'll be
assistant
crying.
coach,
Exactly. Yep.
crying. Today he was on the bench and
Yeah.
he went through all the different emotions after he was taking off,
Yep.
and it just tells you
Yep.
that he's very committed to this team. He wants to win,
He is.
even at 40
You
years.
need to
And
be.
so when
You
these
need to
and
be.
there's a player that has actually won everything, well, besides the World Cup, but
Everything.
he's won
Yep.
everything.
Well, of course.
So
Yeah.
so he still has the hunger. And in the same
Hmm.
team, if you are a young player that hasn't won anything, and you see this guy like
You
Pedro
need to
Neto, and you
watch
see
him.
this guy,
Yep.
and you see this guy doing what he's doing, showing all these emotions,
Yeah.
caring about this, you have no option than to also fight for it, and keep
Yep.
going. And I'm pretty sure that is what continues to ginger some of these players. But let's also talk about
Yeah.
Lamine Yamal, because we've spoken about him a number of times, but he was missing in this final.
Hmm.
Usually, what we've come to know about Yamal is that he's controlling the game, he is making decisive passes, he's assisting or scoring. None of that today. Is it down to Mendes or Yamal just didn't show up? Because I mean, what other excuse would you have?
Um, I won't make an excuse for him, but I would say Portugal planned for him because
Right.
like any other team, they do plan for him, but sometimes he's going to have his way. But this was in the finals, and obviously, they planned for him. They defending. against going up against Mendes was also going to be a challenge for him because these are
Okay.
two young players, and Mendes is quick, he's agile just like Yamal. So great matchup, and obviously we saw that Mendes got the best out of Yamal tonight. He was a little bit sort of like into the finals, I would say, win the finals. But
Yeah.
usually
Yeah.
he'll be buzzing around, doing his thing. But he was a little tensed in this game, and you could see it. That's why he was nowhere to be found. But glad that you made that point of the young guys, looking up to someone like Cristiano, because if that guy is 40 years old, still have that type of hunger, I believe players like even Yama on the opposing team, can learn something from that mentality.
Mm. All right. So at this point, then we'll be done with the Nations League conversation. We'll be moving on straight to some others. But before we do that, we'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll be looking at the world of transfers because I know that you and whatever team you support definitely is chasing one player or the other. We'll be bringing you all the latest updates there and discuss if that is going to be a good move for your club or not. If you're watching this on YouTube, please remember to subscribe and like this video on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please like and also leave a 5-star rating. We definitely appreciate your comments on whichever platform you are joining us on because, again, we want that feedback. And we definitely will be answering your questions in case you have questions for myself or Jonathan Mensah right here as well. We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll be doing the world of transfer. Stay with us.
This is the FC Pitchside podcast, the first in an exciting lineup of podcasts by Footy Centre. Footy Centre is where you'd read your intriguing opinions and daily stories about football. From Europe's biggest leagues, the Champions League, international matches, and for Ghanaian fans, get closer to your favorite national teams.
Let's go into Portugal and Spain and just how Portugal outlasted Spain. That's how I put it. And it's because Spain, I mean, people expected Spain to win this one, not comfortably because it's against a very good Portugal team. But
Hmm.
I mean, the kind of results that Spain have churned out, the kind of form their players are on. But again, it was the old man, Ronaldo, not exactly dictating play, but being decisive.
Yeah, look, Spain have a very good. So I think they are still the best team in the world. Obviously, they're European champions. They've got some of the best players, but I think Martinez of Portugal's coach Martinez, got the starting 11 completely wrong. Because when they're playing, Neves, John Neves
I
as a
always
right
have
back
issues
who
with Roberto
starts to,
Martinez anyway. I always have issues with him.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Even when he
look,
was
he's
coach
got
of
a talented
Belgium,
group
I
of
I
players.
always question, his decisions, the tactics. He's always getting it wrong, to be honest.
Yeah, he never cracked it. And this game was a clear example because when you're playing João Neves as
Yeah.
a right back and he has to invert
Hmm.
against Nico Williams, bro, you're asking for too much trouble. Because if you realize in that first half, Nico Williams had a blast. He had a feels day. Because anytime that João Neves inverted, they were switching the ball to Nico Williams. And by the time he got back into position, he was gone. But in the second half, as soon as he brought Neves, Ruben Neves into midfield, Samedo as a proper right back,
Yeah.
Williams was no more a threat. And of
Mm.
course, Nuno Mendes, who was the player of the game for me today, had Lamine Yamal in his pocket. And then the midfield three of Ruben Neves, Vitinha, and Bruno Fernandes did their thing. But ultimately, one shot, one goal for Cristiano Ronaldo ties it. And then, all of a sudden, the balance of the Portuguese team and then the pace in the team is there for all of us to see. And Spain kind of struggled to deal with the tenacity of the press from some of the Portuguese midfielders. And in the end, it went to penalties where it could be anybody's game. It was all perfection until Morata missed it. It was a close one. It could have been Spain. It could have been Portugal. it was Portugal. And I'm happy that the 40-year-old man, Ronaldo, has yet again captained his country to lift in another trophy for his side.
Crying to a trophy. We understand. He was crying to a trophy, but we understand. I mean, he takes everything seriously. That maybe my producer Joseph Agbobli should be respecting the Conference League, because Ronaldo respects the Nations League. You know.
No. I won't allow you to bring this
So-
last story.
So.
The Conference League,
Uh-huh.
big European teams don't play in the Conference League.
Oh
Big
really?
European
Oh really?
nations play-
Really? Maybe
play
that's
in
why.
the-
Maybe
in the
that's why
Nations
Manchester
League.
United didn't play in it, because they couldn't even qualify for such a terrible league, a terrible
Because
competition.
they're a
Man
terrible
United
team.
couldn't even
Because
qualify.
they're a terrible team.
Oh, right. So
big-
Man
the
United
big-
is no longer.
the big-
So Man United is no longer a big team. That is that right?
They were a terrible team last season, so they didn't have to qualify.
Last season, just last season, or they've been a
Yes.
terrible team for
Yes.
ages. Anyway, let's move on. This is supposed to be the segment of transfers. We'll be starting with Nigeria striker Victor Osimhen, who has rejected a 75 million euro offer to join the Saudi Arabian side Al Hilal. I think I'm getting tired of this one. Sicho, I'll start with you on this transfers before I go to Jonathan and others. I think I'm getting tired of this particular transfer, or this guy. And the reason is, he is holding himself so high when it comes to these transfer conversations that he might end up wasting his career somewhere, because he seems like I have this expectation and this view of myself. I deserve this amount of money, and if you're not going to give me that amount of money, I'm not going to go anywhere. He lost that deal going to Chelsea at the very last minute last summer, and ended up going to Galatasaray because Napoli couldn't offload him. He's priced himself out of Napoli keeping him in the club, and now he's pricing himself out of a Saudi Arabian offer. How many people are able to price themselves out of a Saudi Arabian offer? But I mean, yeah, that's where we are now. What's your take on Osimhen?
To be honest, Osimhen is one of the best strikers now in the game. He really
That's true.
is. Unfortunately for him, the very elite clubs don't need a striker or don't have the money for him. So Bayern Munich don't need the striker; they have Harry Kane. Real Madrid don't look like they need the striker like Osimhen. Man United can't afford him. He might be out of his wages and how much they have to pay. Man City don't need a striker like that. Liverpool are looking elsewhere. So a lot of the Barcelona have Lewandowski. But the teams I'm mentioning, these are the kind of teams in Europe that Osimhen should be playing for, considering how good a goal scorer he is. However, like I said, it's either the clubs don't have money or they don't have a need for him. Now, it's a surprising that the Saudi deal...
Two teams need strikers. Let me hold you there. Two teams need strikers. Chelsea
Arsenal?
need a very good striker, and Arsenal need a
Yeah.
very good striker. But if
So-
these two top teams are
Yeah.
not necessarily engaging in serious conversations with you, that's a problem.
No, so again, I don't think Chelsea are going for a player like Osimhen because of what they have termed as their transfer philosophy or policy. That is why
and
they've
the
gone for a
wage
player like
structure. He
Liam
doesn't fit
Delap.
into
The wage
But that's what I'm
structure,
talking about.
they're going to
But that's
sign.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, but the point is, they're going to. I mean, Chelsea's wage structure means they're not going to buy elite players who are going into their prime 27, 26. He even falls after the age category. That's what they've got in for Liam Delap. You know, there might be outliers, but will Osimhen sign a 7-year deal with Chelsea and take 110,000 a week? I'm not sure he will. I'm sure he's looking at something like 200,
Yeah.
250 and signing a 4-year deal. So that is where the problem is when it comes to Chelsea. When it comes to Arsenal, yes, Arsenal could also need a striker, but will Arsenal pay the wages that could break their wage structure or wage bill? I don't think so. So yeah, Osimhen's case is delicate. But what surprises me is that when all these big European teams are not looking to sign you because of their own problems or how much money you are demanding, how are you not putting pen to paper on a 45 million a year deal for Al Hilal? It doesn't make sense to me. Like 45 million euros a year to go to Al
Yeah.
Hilal. So what are his expectations, right? Maybe he doesn't fancy playing out of Europe. He would rather stay in the Turkish league and still play in the Champions League and play in Europe. And that is where maybe
Yeah.
his head is, because as it stands, I don't get it.
All right, Jonathan, let me ask you on the next player on my list. I'm going to move on from Osimhen. I'll do Florian Wirtz. Remember, he currently plays for Bayern Leverkusen, currently considered the best player in Germany. Well, I would say it's Musiala, but he has a lot of hype around him. Liverpool consider him, their top targets for the summer, and they want him to fix their playmaker issues at the club. But the fee that Leverkusen have set for him is 150 million. Liverpool have submitted 113 million that has been rejected. First of all, is he worth it? Do you think this is a player that can come into Liverpool and change the team?
He's he's a good player, but I don't see why they can reject an offer like that.
Speak
Because
no
we're
more. I
talking
agree with
about
you. And I don't even know why Liverpool
we
are bidding that amount, to be honest.
yeah, because when you're talking of this kind of price tags, you're talking about the Yamals, I would say. I'm sure he's worth more now, but yeah, he's just won the league, I believe, last year. That's about it.
Right.
And obviously he's doing well with the national team and all that. But this is a huge amount to even, for a club to refuse. So I don't know what Liverpool sees in him. Obviously, he's a good player. That can be, a great player in a good system, like he showed us last year. But
Right.
Liverpool, what they've done, they've won the league, but they're still looking to reinforce, with such a good player. I would say, if they don't accept this offer, they can move on and get, a similar player like that with, a lesser fee, I would say.
Right, and talk about lesser fees. Liverpool are also closing in on Milos Kerkez. Of course, Kerkez is a left back, considered one of the best left backs in the Premier League this season. Another very good target, I think, Sijo.
Mm.
Yeah, good target. Last season, Liverpool struggled down that side. Robertson wasn't the same player that we had seen a couple of years ago. Chimikas as well. It's a good deputy, but you can't trust him for a long haul. Milos Kerkez for Bournemouth was amazing, really was. So I think it's a side that Liverpool are looking at strengthening. And just like they've brought in Jeremy Frimpong, they are also not forgetting the left hand side. And I think it's a very, very good buy. Premier League experience, knows the league, knows the country, and taking a step up to Liverpool. I think it's an intelligent one if they eventually sign him.
Mm.
Intelligent one if they're able to sign him. What about Thomas Partey, our own Thomas Partey? Because there's been conversations about how Arsenal are in talks with him over a new deal. Would you like to see that happen, Jonathan? Or would you like him to move away? Maybe go to Chelsea where he can win.
Um, yeah, I saw Barcelona rumors as well, but I believe he needs to take on the challenge again at Arsenal if they are to renew his contract. And then obviously from a disappointing season they had last year, they can obviously compete again for the title. So I would be glad to see him there again. I don't know why Sicho is smiling, but I would
Yes,
love
I don't know
to
who
see
Sicho is
Thomas
chatting
there.
with, but whoever it is that Sicho is chatting with, the person is making Sicho smile a lot. But anyway, Rodrygo, as we know, in Real Madrid, has emerged as a top target for us. Now, I'm going to be skipping that, but I think that is not going to happen. Chelsea's interest in Mohamed Kudus has been one of the biggest conversations in the last 3 days. Guys, what's your take on that? Because there's been talk about how, well, I think that conversation needs to be ironed out well, because Sky Sports is reporting that it is West Ham United that have offered Kudus to Chelsea because they want player exchange. And some other portals are saying that Chelsea wants Kudus and are offering players in exchange. I mean, you never really, until you know the source of the transfer story, you never know what the real dynamics there would be. But Sicho, what's your first take on that?
Yeah, I think that whoever is looking at the deal first, whether West Ham or Chelsea, they might have mentioned some players that they want to move
Yeah,
across.
Robert
And Kudus
Sanchez is one of the
Robert
guys, the
Sanchez
goalkeeper for Chelsea.
and
Yeah,
Dries Hall. He has also
Andrews
been
Hall, yes.
mentioned. Yeah, has also been mentioned in that one. Look, I think Mohamed Kudus is a fascinating footballer. We all know that he has to take the next step up. West Ham was a good platform for him to know the Premier League, study himself in the league, know his inside and out. Last season wasn't great for him. He had an incredible first season, but last season wasn't great for him. But I'm not going to pin that on him. I think it was not great for the entire West Ham team. So every
Yeah,
important
they
player
were
in that team
all
struggled.
in
Paqueta,
shambles, to be
they were all
honest.
bad.
Yeah,
They were all bad, and he was caught in the middle of a very bad team that struggled last season. But his quality has never been in doubt. I think having known the Premier League for 2 years, it's about time for him now to step it up. And stepping it up to one of the best teams in the league and one of the teams that are going into the Champions League, like Chelsea. In a team where, to be fair, in the positions where Kudus can be effective, nobody really has held it down. Because you see, my West Ham track is good at playing on the left, it's good at playing on the right. I think the only position that somebody has really claimed and owned is that Cole Palmer number 10 role. And I don't think Kudus is a good number 10 anyway. I think Kudus in the wide area can be very good. At times, Chelsea can trust him as a false nine. It can be devastating for them. So there are lots of positions available for Kudus to go and stake a claim for it. And I think that if he goes into that Chelsea team, it's a step up for him. People that can now see a lot more of his quality. And he'll be playing amongst a lot more of quality players, which hopefully can bring the best out of him and take him to the next level. But yeah, it's a move that I'll be very keen to see.
Jonathan, is that something you'd like to see? Kudus to Chelsea?
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. And obviously, we've had some, great Ghanaian players, pass through Chelsea. So that would definitely be, one for the Ghanaians for some Ghanaians to sort of like cherish.
He'll be like the
'Cause,
fourth most prominent Ghanaian besides, after Michael Essien, Christian Achu, may he still rest in peace,
Baba Rahman.
Baba Rahman, and then now
Yeah.
him.
Baba Rahman,
we still have a lot of young Ghanaian players in the academy who eventually become English anyway. But in terms of real Ghanaian players, he'll become the fourth.
Yeah, it would be it would be interesting, and obviously to chime in on what Sicho said about a false nine. So what are you going to do with Jackson?
It's not just Jackson. Now there's the lap. I don't think false nine will ever become a need at Chelsea as it was last season, because I think Chelsea learned their lesson that Jackson will not be fit the entire season. You need a backup.
You need a backup, yeah.
And so they use Pedro Neto, they use Tyreek George, but now they feel they need to move away from the false nine because it never worked. They need another striker.
Yeah.
And even after the lap, they're looking for Ekitike. I think the false nine would never really become an option for them going into next season. I think if they sign Kudus, it's definitely going to be on the left side that they want to deploy him. Because on the right, Chelsea have Madueke, they have Esteval Willian coming from Brazil, and they think very highly.
Is Kudus not better than all of those players?
Yeah, Kudus, yes. But you see, here's the thing. Maresca does not believe in what you and I believe in. Maresca is a very stubborn guy who feels that certain players who, when they fit his style, are supposed to be kept there. And I feel that Esteval, for all the hype he's gotten in Brazil, being considered the next guy after Neymar and everything, it might be a slow, introduction. But I feel that he and Madueke might be battling for that right slot. And for the left slot, remember, Mudryk has been almost banned, as we know it. And then we also know that Sancho is going back to Manchester United. So it means only Pedro Neto. And I think that Kudus definitely will beat Pedro Neto to that spot. But anyway, that will be it. But talking about some of the players that could be going the other way, that is Robert Sanchez, it's because Chelsea are looking to sign AC Milan goalkeeper Mike Maignan. Now, I want Sicho, because you follow the Serie A lot. Sicho, tell me about Maignan. What do you think? Is he a good goalkeeper?
He's a fantastic goalkeeper, a very good goalkeeper, but I think he's just started to decline.
Is it because of his injuries?
Only marginally for so many reasons. Constant also complained about his weight and his body shape. He thought he was overweight. He didn't think he was fit, and he had lost a bit of reflex and agility. And I think that Mike Maignan of 2 years ago, in the season when Milan won the Scudetto, he was amazing. But this season, he's let in a couple of goals where people have questioned if it's the Mike Maignan they knew a couple of seasons ago. But you're not too sure if it's also down to how bad Milan's backline has been, assembled in the last couple of seasons and the loss of form of some of those players. But I think even when he's kept the post for France, he's made a couple of errors. He makes great saves, and there is that one thing that you are thinking, oh, Mike Maignan, the keeper of his quality, should make. And I think he's declined a little. It's a difficult one because he's declined just a little bit from the Mike Maignan that won the league or won the Scudetto with Milan. But I still think he's a great goalkeeper considering what Chelsea have got. It's not like Chelsea have got Courtois or Chelsea have got Oblak. Chelsea have got
Right.
Sanchez with the greatest respect to them and enjoy it. So I think Mike Mignon is an improvement of what Chelsea have got. But
And there's also
hopefully,
Petrovic,
it's
and,
not.
and I've seen lots of Chelsea fans, asking for Petrovic to come back because he's been one of the best goalkeepers at Strasbourg last season.
Uh,
I mean, the League 1 for Strasbourg last
yeah,
season. He definitely, needs a shot. But I mean, I
yeah.
think
No,
Mignon will
I feel for
definitely be
him.
that great.
I feel for him. I feel for Petrovic because had he not gone on loan this season, the end of season, I'm thinking when Sanchez was struggling, he could have made a firm claim for that number one spot.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, after 2 seasons ago, his exploits for Chelsea, he was sent out alone to Strasbourg. So I still
Mhm.
wonder the whole Chelsea
It doesn't make sense, bro.
project
Don't
thing.
don't don't think too much
You know,
of it. It doesn't make sense. The
yeah,
Chelsea
but
sporting
Mike Mignon
directors,
is,
nobody knows
is
how they think. Yeah. Now,
but Mike Mignon is it's an improvement. So yeah, let's see how it goes.
most definitely an improvement. Now, also we are going to be looking at some other transfers. Postecoglou, actually, Ange Postecoglou. Let's talk about him briefly, guys. Jonathan, I'll take I'll take your view on him first. A manager that wins the Europa League, a first trophy in 17 years for a club, gets sacked because he finished the league season 17th. Now, it means that the Tottenham deciders say or prefer someone who finishes very high in the league over someone who brings them
Mhm.
trophies. Quite a Spursy thing to do.
Well,
But yeah,
I think they were satisfied with the trophy, but they were
yeah,
not happy with the way
with the
things
league
went
finish,
during the
right?
season. Yeah, because and obviously some of his comments were a little bit cocky, I would say. He said, the usually,
The
series,
third
obviously the
season is
season
always
to
better.
be always better. So the owners
But
will
but
be
but
like,
but, but
wait a
also
minute.
remember, he said that they
See,
sometimes kill off the main characters, and so he has been killed off.
he did,
Yeah.
but because he obviously knew that was a bad season. They still won
Yeah,
the
of course,
trophy,
of
but it
course.
was a terrible season.
He saw it coming.
And yeah, the owners obviously had this planned out because the way Spurs were playing throughout the season, it was terrible. So he knew, he probably had a hint and made those comments at the end of his statements and all that. So, but it's been a lot of changes for Spurs, and hopefully they get it right this time.
All right, but talking about getting it right, they're looking for Brentford boss Thomas Frank. He's among the leading candidates to replace Postecoglou. Sisho, do you think that'll be a good move?
They need to come for
Look, it's
Sicho.
Mr. Tactical.
that's kind. Look, Thomas Frank he's been good since look, he sustained Brentford in the Premier League. That's not easy. He won them promotion.
Mhm.
He's been there. To be honest, he's one of the longest serving Premier League managers now, considering how many times teams are changing their managers.
That is
When you
very
look
true.
across the
That is
Premier
very
League,
true.
they've sacked,
That is very
like,
true.
I think
But
it's
also
only Pep
if you
Guardiola
look
and
at
Mikel
how
Arteta.
long he stayed there, it's not long anyway. But he still would be considered one of the longest
Yeah,
serving, alongside
yeah,
Pep Guardiola.
and Mikel Arteta. Because the
Yeah,
reason I throw in this stat is because the Premier League has become so difficult to the extent that lots of managers keep losing their jobs. But he's been
yeah.
able to sustain his. It means he's done something well with the club. But the
Mm,
environment at Brentford is so different from what he faced at Spurs because at Brentford, they've got an incredible, data system that is able to scout players to come in and do the job for them. Something like what Brighton does. And so it's not necessarily his job to look out for players who come in and play a certain way. They know how he wants to play, and it is
right.
people's job to think about players they're going to bring in. At Spurs, I have a feeling it's going to be different. He now has to set up his own team
Mhm.
and think about players he's going to bring in. That is where we're going to see if he's a good manager in terms of recruitment and coaching. Because we know
Hmm.
managers who are good at just coaching on the pitch, but when it comes to recruiting players and getting the best out of them, they struggle to do it. Like we
Yeah,
saw Eric Ten Hag at Man United when he recruited his own players, Malasia, Anthony, Hoyland, and all of these players, he struggled to get the best out of them. But we knew in Ajax, when the system brought the players to him, he was able to coach the players into playing well. So Thomas Frank now is going to go into a Spurs team where he has to do a lot more than he was doing at Brentford. And Brentford was almost like a safe haven for him. It didn't matter how bad he played in a game or how many games he had lost in a row. He was like a demigod there because of what he had done for them. But at Spurs, he'll be
Mhm.
judged differently. We'll see how it will go. But I think he's talented. He's got a personality. He speaks well. I like his style of football. And hopefully then at a big club like Spurs, he's able to take it a step higher.
All right, that will be it when it comes to Pochettino. When it comes to what his replacement could be, but there's also been talk
Pochettino.
about Bournemouth's,
Do you
Areola,
miss
also
Pochettino?
Fulham's. Please come
You
again.
just said Pochettino.
You
I
said
mean,
Pochettino. Are
Ange
you missing
Postecoglou.
Pochettino?
Ange Postecoglou.
Come
Ange
on, mate.
Postecoglou.
Come on, mate.
But there's also talk about
Come on,
Areola for
mate.
Bournemouth, Fulham's Marco Silva, Crystal Palace's,
Yeah.
Oliver Glasner, and there's also former Chelsea and Spurs boss, that is Mauricio Pochettino. Among the candidates being considered, it would actually be very intriguing if Pochettino goes back to Spurs for being the last guy that actually kept them at a very consistent high level. We wait to see if that actually does happen. We are going to be going to the quiz just about now. Stay tuned. It's time. It's time for us to have our quiz. And this time it's going to be wait, guys. What do you guys want? Do you want the zigzag or you want mystery man?
Zigzag, zigzag, zigzag,
You
zigzag,
want zigzag. You
zigzag,
want zigzag.
zigzag, zigzag.
Okay, all right. So for the first player in our zigzag, I am
Wait,
going
Jonah, are
to.
you? I can't hear Jonah.
Can you
can
hear
hear
me?
Jonah.
Okay, yeah, on.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
can
can
hear
hear
you.
Jonah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah,
Jonathan, can you hear me too?
Yes, I
yeah,
can.
Great.
loud and clear.
So you guys say you are ready for the zigzag. So let's go quickly. Now, this guy started his football playing in a team called Figueirense. And then he moved from Figueirense to TSG Hoffenheim. From TSG Hoffenheim, he moved to Liverpool. From Liverpool, he moved to Al Ahly. Who am I talking about? I'll
Firmino,
go right
Roberto
ahead.
Firmino,
Firmino is correct, and so it's
Roberto
1 point.
Firmino,
It's
Roberto
1 point.
Firmino,
It's 1 point for
Roberto
Philip
Firmino.
Sito. It's 1
Two
point
or
for Sito.
five?
Jonathan. Yeah, we're going 5
2
today.
5?
Zigzag
Okay.
is always short, so we do 5. And then
Okay, cool.
for the mystery players, we do 3. So to the
Okay.
next player. This player started his football for Bologna, and then he moved from there to Alice, and then from Alice, I'll say Alais because it's French. He moved to Brest, and then to Metz. Then he played in Galatasaray, but that was not where his best football came. His best football started showing at Marseille. Any guesses so far? Because after that, he decided to move from Marseille in France to Germany. And he became a superstar in Germany for Bayern Munich. After Bayern Munich, he decided to go play football for Fiorentina.
Ribery, Frank Ribery,
Frank Ribery
Frank
is
Ribery.
correct.
Frank Ribery.
Today, Jonah is being
Bologna.
roasted. Anyway, let's move on straight to the
Frank
next
Ribery.
one. Let's move on straight to the next one. Let's move on straight to the next
Wow.
one. Let's move on straight
Come
to the next one. Oh, so don't want to see the way you excite.
You know win now. You know win. You know win. You get 2
Okay, so we have
points.
to win. You now,
Vamos.
Jonah has to win
Okay,
this
make
next
us
one. If not, it's
stretch.
game over.
Vamos.
Jonah has to win this next one.
Wait.
Oh wow, the serious helmet is in play.
Now
The
make
serious
ready.
helmet is in play.
I'm on game points,
Let's
bro.
go.
Game points. Game points.
Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, now let me bring up my next player. I want this
Okay.
guy. Should I change him? Oh my god. Jonah, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
You know, now I can hear you.
Don't change for Sicho. Give us the
Oh
hard
no,
one. I like those
I'm not.
ones.
Oh no. I'm not going to change for Sicho at
Me,
all.
I have to. You don't have any. You're changing. You saying it's changing for me. You
Let's
care for
go.
me.
Okay. I have my third guy. This guy started playing his football for Beveren. Then he moved to Metalia Donetsk in Ukraine.
Ukraine.
Then he moved from there to Greece to play for a Greek club called Olympiakos. And then he moved from Olympiakos to AS Monaco. After AS Monaco, after here, I'm sure you know who it is. He played for Barcelona.
Olympiacos to Barcelona.
Yeah, Olympiacos to Monaco.
From Olympiacos to AS Monaco before
Monaco.
playing for Barcelona.
From Monaco to
Barcelona.
He eventually went back to Olympiacos, but before he did that, he played for Manchester City.
Yaya Toure. Yaya Toure.
Yaya Toure is correct.
Yaya
Yaya
Toure.
Toure.
No way.
Yaya Toure is correct.
Yaya
Today
Toure.
is a complete whitewash.
Vamos! Vamos!
Yaya Toure is correct. And so it's 3 points for Sito today and 0 for Jonathan. Jonathan, what's your defeat speech?
See, if Teacher make late, so they do rehearsal, son.
They do research. They do research.
That be why.
What a bad
That be why he make late.
What a bad
That be why he make late, you know.
That's real, bro.
But
Anyway,
you
of course,
do
another exciting one. Today was
if I wear black shirts, forget.
I have told the editor to compile who has been winning all these previous episodes. This is episode 7 of FC Pitchside Podcast, and so we are going to be keeping track of who will be winning, for the calendar year. But of course, it's been another exciting edition with the boys. Myself here in Yan, I've been doing this with Jonathan Mensah and Philip Sicho Atrim.
The late comer.
Anyway, also
save the best for last. Save the best for last. The late comer won. The late comer. Save the best for last.
This is Sicho's Champions League that he lost against PSG.
Against PSG.
He lost against Spurs.
Today
he's celebrating beyond everything. But anyway, if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, please remember to leave us a very good rating. And of course, we are looking out for your comments. One comment last week said he's here for Sicho. Sicho, you are loved. And so remember that. But anyway, we want to see your comments. If you have any questions for myself or Jonathan, for Sicho, we'll be answering them on the show. Whatever feedback you have for us as well, we'll be taking them in very good faith and, of course, be improving as the episodes keep going on. Thank you very much for joining us on FC Pitchside Podcast. Until next time.